I'm Memphis. I'm a shaman, and today is the first video in a series that I'm doing, going over my personal experiences with different deities, angels, different kind of entities, just as a way to share what working with these beings might be like for you, for people who want to work with them, a more contemporary way of looking at working with certain entities. So this video is going to be about Krishna. And actually, I don't have a lot of experience with working with him. The only reason I'm including him in this series at all is because he's the first deity that I ever saw who materialized in a physical form, where I was able to see him with these eyes, not this eye. And also, he's a really good example of what can happen when you have an ongoing and connected type of relationship with a deity. Because almost all of my interactions with him happened through and around an old friend of mine. And her relationship with him is deep and it's ongoing. I would go to her house. She has pictures of him in her room, in her kitchen, in her living room. She has an altar for him with statues of him. Her love for him and her devotion to him is ongoing, and it touches every single part of her life. So she's a practitioner also. She's not a shaman, but she does healing work. So her and I would sometimes, we would trade. I needed healing, she needed healing, so we would just trade. And every time that I would journey for her, I'd see Krishna show up. He would be one of the helping spirits to come forward to work with her and to help her and help me help her. Then when she would do healing work on me, it was usually in her home. So she sets her table up, I lay down, and then as soon as I close my eyes, I see him coming down the stairs of her house into the living room and standing at my feet. And then he would sometimes he'd actively work on me with her. Sometimes he would just kind of stand there and support her energy. So that was one way, her relationship with him was so deep and so intense that anyone else around her who was sensitive to these kinds of energies could pick up on him, knew he was there, and could bear witness to this relationship that she had. And personally, I think that's beautiful. So you kind of know you're on the right, if you really connect with and work with a certain entity, you kind of know when you're on the right path if your friends start like noticing that being too, like without you calling attention to it. And then the way that I would see him in the flesh, so to speak, is her and I would sometimes go to a kirtan service at a temple in Mount Airy. And she liked to go to Wednesday evenings, so I would go to Wednesday evenings with her sometimes. And that really didn't do it for me too much because it's very quiet, not a whole lot of people. But one day I went by myself to a Sunday service where the altar is closed, and then during the ceremony, during the service, the altar is opened by the priests and the monks. They open the altar, they call the deities in. So this whole service of the singing and the chanting is calling this God in, not just into the space, but into being. And the room was full of people. So it's not just me, it's not just the monks, it's this whole room full of people. We're all lending our energy, we're all singing, we're all dancing, or we're swaying. And I had never been to the Sunday service, so I had no expectations. But all of a sudden at the end, the music stops, everyone gets down and bows. They get on their knees and they bow. And Krishna was there. He was physically, I could see him with my eyes. He was huge. He was standing in the middle of the room, and he looked like he was covered in in sweat, as if he was like, as if he'd had to like work out, like work hard in order to get there. But he was smiling, and it was like he was looking at every single person at the same time. The gratitude that he felt towards everyone in that room, I could feel it. It was just like this wave just hit my whole chest, like it knocked the breath out of me. I could barely breathe. I was stunned. And it was weird because I'm seeing him standing there and he has more than one set of arms. So he kept switching back and forth from having 3 sets of arms to just 1 set of arms, and then 3 and then 1 and then 3 and then 1. It was really weird. It was like I was seeing him with my eyes and with my third eye at the same time. So maybe the third eye was seeing 3 sets of arms and my 2 eyes were just seeing the 1. And you know, that was the only like really weird part I could not like make sense of. But he was physically there. Like I looked up and was looking around to see if the other people in the room could see him too. I was like, I can't be the only person seeing. Like I can't believe this. He was physically there. He was huge. He was really tall, taller than a normal human being, like almost touching the ceiling. He was big. And the love and the gratitude that he felt for every single person in that room was just overwhelming. It was like this wave washing over all of us. And it made me cry. It like when it was all over, it made me cry because it was just so powerful. And here's this being that I don't really know, that I have no connection to, that just, you know, is saying, you know, with his body and with his heart, thank you for bringing me here. Thank you for loving me. I love you all too. I adore all of you. You're all wonderful. To feel those emotions coming from something so much bigger than you and more powerful is really amazing and overwhelming. And especially if you are someone who does not value yourself, or at some point in your life did not value yourself. Knowing you are loved and knowing you are beloved by the universe itself, not just by you or by your family, but knowing that it is bigger than that, and that you are recognized, that you are seen by more than that, by the universe, by the divine, is a life-changing experience. It's really, really huge. So that was like one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had with any deity, really. And I think that that's what a lot of people are looking for when they worship with others, whether it's in church or in shul or in a mosque, whether it's at a Hindu temple or in covens and circles. You know, when people come together and they worship together and they pray with one mind, multiple minds coming forward with one intention, you can make anything happen. You can manifest anything. There's a lot of power. There's a lot of power in each of us. But when we combine all our power together into one, it's unbelievable what we as a species can accomplish. And I think that group worship is a good example of that. So that's my experience with that deity. And if you want to look up more about him, feel free to. Again, this was just about my experiences. I'm not really going to go into what each of these gods or angels are like for, or what you can work with them for, or how to. I'm going to kind of leave that, like there's a lot of other sources about that. But for those of you who are wanting to work with Krishna, or have started to, I hope that this helps you and kind of guides you in a positive way towards that goal. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you next month. Bye. Hi, I'm Memphis. I'm a shaman, and this is the second video in my series of experiences that I've had with different deities and guides, and just to share what my personal experiences were like. So today, it's Metatron. Metatron is the Archangel of memory, of self-awareness, of the Akashic records. He's a strong protector too, and he's probably been in my life in this lifetime since I was born, and mainly as a protecting force. I was not always aware of him being there, but when I became aware of him and began to actively communicate with him, I was able to come to the understanding that of like how long he had been there. He, shared more about what his role in my life and in working with me had been. Some interesting things about my perception of him. He's the only angel that I see and communicate with who doesn't appear white. He always looks like he's Arab or Egyptian. Sometimes he has very, very long hair that is curly, like these really thick curls, and sometimes it's in braids. He's also really, really, really tall. I'm talking about his hair, but sometimes I can't even see his hair because I can't see his face because he's so high up. It's like, nope, not happening. He's definitely like the tallest angel that I communicate with. He also always comes across as if he's male, not somewhere in the middle, not more feminine. And there are one or two angels that I've worked with who are the opposite, where they really come across as more female, but the majority of them are right in the middle. They're neither one nor the other. They're this perfect blending of both. So I just think that's interesting and worth mentioning, because I also feel like, I know in my mind, I equate someone who is a protector with more masculine traits. I see that energy within myself, and I identify it more as masculine, or as the masculine aspects of me. So I think that has more to do with my perception of what a protector looks like or should be like, rather than maybe what he actually is or what he actually looks like. And something with all entities, they present themselves to us in the way that we are comfortable seeing them and perceiving them. They need to be palatable. Unless we really, really trust them and are willing to see them, and they know we're willing to see them as they are, what we're seeing is going to be more of a mixture of what they are and what they think we can handle seeing. So I think that a lot of the more masculine aspects of him are more about myself than about what he really looks like. So just wanted to share that and put that out there. So the first time I became aware of him, like actually had active communication with him, I was in my 20s. I was living in Gaithersburg, down in Maryland. I had broken up with my fiance. That breakup was ugly for both of us. Ugly in how we felt and how we behaved. And I was living on my own. I had moved out of his house. I had my own apartment. I was working 12-hour days, mainly by choice, and then working out about 2 hours afterwards. I was up to my eyeballs in my eating disorder. So I was just kind of like burning the candle at both ends on purpose, because it was a way to just get away from the pain that I felt from my breakup. And I used to be a very a very creative person, wrote music, wrote poetry, all of that stuff. And all of that stopped when I got to Maryland. And so I'm in a really dark place is what I'm trying to say. And the things that usually would give me some kind of strength, I was not doing. And I also had not met any of my mentors yet. I had gotten out of the hospital only a few, five or so years ago. So everything was still very much, there was so much of me that was still lost. And this was the first time in years that I'd had any kind of a connection to something otherworldly and was fully aware of it. So I'm sitting in my apartment on my couch and I just start crying, just feeling like crap. I had a notebook open in front of me. I was gonna try and write poetry and nothing was happening. So I was just like, well, this is bullshit. And I start crying, and then I start to calm down a little bit, and I begin to like imagine just out of nowhere this beach, and imagine myself sitting on a beach and looking at the waves, and then I'm aware of someone behind me, and they're really, really tall, and they have this long, wild, curly, dark hair, but I can't really see or tell much else about them. And then they start talking to me, and their voice is so deep and so big, like bigger than the person I'm feeling, that I don't just hear it, I feel it in my cheekbones and in my collarbone. I feel the vibration of their voice. It was more like thunder than a human voice. And they just start talking to me, and I start writing down what they're saying. I just kind of felt like maybe I should record this. And it was very soothing. I mean, in that moment, I was confused, like, what the hell is going on? But when it was over and they moved away and I was back in my apartment and I read the words, I felt so much better. And it was such a comforting thing. He was probably the person who stopped an ex-partner from killing me when they had me tied up and said they were going to kill me and then didn't. There was a lot of other moments in my life that I could have died and didn't, and that probably had a lot to do with him. When I got in a car accident, I know he was there. That was, of course, after, where I was more aware of things. So a lot of my understanding of him is more, I'm still here. And I can literally go back in my mind and count the times that I shouldn't be and know that that was him. But when I do try to channel him or communicate with him or connect to him, there is always that deep voice, always. And there's been a few times also where when I do see him, he has eyes on his hands. Like, he'll put his hand on my shoulder, but then all these eyes will open up along each of his knuckles and on his on the back of his hand. And then if he does not have longer sleeves, I can see some going up his arm. There was also one time where I went to a gathering that an acupuncturist friend of mine was having, and everyone he invited was either they're a practitioner of some sort of healing art, or they're interested in it and kind of need a little extra guidance. So the whole thing was wonderful. And when I get there, I'm sitting there and everyone is coming in and they're sitting down, and we're outdoors. The fire has been built and it's building up, but it's still light out, so everyone's still talking and stuff. And I don't know anyone, so I'm not talking to anybody really. But then I suddenly noticed there's these huge muddy boots sitting right next to me. And I look up and the person has on this long black robe or like trench coat kind of thing or something. And I can't, they're so tall, I can't really see much past like the tops of their legs. And I look up at them and I go, can I help you with something? And he says, I don't know, can you? And then I realize that it's Metatron, and I hadn't even recognized him because of all the black and how dirty the boots are. I'm like, what are you doing with these? You know, your boots are really dirty. What's going on? And he's like, we're about to do some dirty work. And he steps out of the boots and he sets them to the side and goes, but I understand, we have to come clean. And then later during the whole fire thing, as we're going around and we're each sharing, one of the other women in the group, who she can see angels and she works with angels, and that's kind of like her niche, I overheard her say kind of loudly to someone else, she has Metatron with her. Oh my God, I can't believe it. She has Metatron with her. And pointing to me. And then when the individual who had asked us all to be here and was hosting the circle, he works with another angel also, and he said that when, you know, as he goes around the room and goes around the circle and is talking and sharing messages with each of us, when he gets to me, he says, well, my angel was gonna have a message for you, but then he just sees this giant dark person standing behind you, and he just shrugged his shoulders and says, she's covered, I don't need to do anything, and just walked away. So I thought that was cool that there were other people there who worked with angels and could see angels that saw him and knew in some way what he was. Even though only one of them knew him by name, the other one understood enough to be like, this is a protective force. This is something that is there for you. So that was, you know, those were really cool moments. He was also the first person that I tried to actively, intentionally channel for automatic writing. I find that most of the angels are pretty amenable to that. They're comfortable with it, but it always flows most easily with him. And I really think that's because, to an extent, they have to enter into my physical space in some way, because they have to take at least some control of my hand, my arm. And in order for any being to connect with you in a way that they're interfering with your physical space, not only do you have to trust them, but they have to trust you too. That you're going to accept this, that you're going to allow this. And there is a lot of trust between me and him. Him and Anubis are probably the only two guides and only two people really in my life ever that I trust absolutely 100%, no questions, no hesitation at any given moment in any circumstance. I do not trust easily. I do not trust people easily, but I have always trusted them without hesitation, and they've never given me a reason not to. So that's my experience with Metatron. If any of you have had your own experiences with him and want to share, feel free to. I think that would be cool. And I will see you next month.